Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel one more time. You read the title correctly. No jokes, no pranks. Submarines are coming officially into World of Warships. Now, before you jump into any sort of ridiculous conclusions, I'm gonna play you a couple of images first so you can get an idea, and then I will show you the actual gameplay in case you haven't seen. As you can see from the picture quite clearly, it's going to be the next Halloween event. It's planned to be played with submarines, but there are also some ships in basically a theme of the older just like the previous event that we had before. The ships that I've seen so far look like mostly like Mogami and some crazy ass destroyers. Very nasty looking. You'll pretty much see what I mean. So I'm guessing that it will be able to be played with ships, or all the ships are just gonna be AI controlled, basically your opponents. I'm not sure about that, but here you can see some of those ships as well. But the main theme is actually going to be submarines. Now, we can talk about this and how much work it actually had to go into this to make it happen. And we know that basically these scenarios, operations, the co-op, and these special events like Halloween have been playgrounds, playtest grounds, or something that's actually going to be implemented in the game eventually after all. Now, is it going to be true or not? We're not sure, but we have heard from some official World of Warships staff, especially from NA, that they will be working on this in 2019. Same as carriers, so we can basically expect the 2019 or 2019 to be very, very new content heavy. And when I mean new content, I don't mean just new tech tree lines, new branch. It's going to be like a completely new thing, new class. First of all, the carriers are going to change completely drastically. More on that later. And the submarines are a totally new class that just imposes a billion questions, which we're going to be going through. Like, from now on, the maps are going to have to be reworked from the surface up and down. So all the maps are going to have to be reworked. Which tiers are they going to be? How fast are they going to be? What can kill them? What will they do? Stuff like that. Many questions. But let's stop with the slideshow and let me show you the actual gameplay. There we go. As you can see, there's three different types of submarines. This is the big one, which is supposed to be slow and loaded for bear. And there's gonna be like a medium and a small submarine. I'm guessing this is the medium one. I'm not sure. They will be having, and this is the smaller one, I believe. They'll be having different characteristics, maybe even different weapons. We'll see. Not sure yet. And here we go. It looks very, very ridiculous when the submarine dives. It literally looks like somebody's pushing it down. You can see the periscopes and a whole bunch of antennas, and you can see the torpedoes there in the front. It will be able to fire torps from the front, although I did see some footage where they fire torpedoes from the back as well. But it's very, very narrow and very questionable how many torps there are actually going to be. Here we can see the map actually from below. Now, they have put a significant amount of work in this. Now, these submarines look ridiculous and all these flying things around and everything. Yes, I agree. This is the Halloween event. But here, let me just stop you. Well, we'll stop it eventually. We'll stop it eventually where I'll pay attention. Well, I'll show you some details. But we can see that the submarines are diving, surfacing. Let me just tune it down a bit. They will be able to stay on the surface. They will be able to dive on different depths. I just think that they need to rework this dive. Now, this is still early, very, very early, and very much work in progress. And here we can see the torps. Well, actually one torpedo. You'll be pretty shocked to see how much damage these torpedoes will be doing. And here we can see that they're actually trying to hit the submarine. She was detected, now she's not. Some alien monsters, even underwater now. Which I'm very curious to see if we can collide with them. And how is that gonna work? You can see various different weapons here. Like, look at this. 3 different sorts of torpedoes. I did hear, and you can see that you can fire from the back as well. I did hear that there will be 2 different types of torpedoes. One which is supposed to be slower, and I think do like a lot of damage. And one that's gonna be actually a lot faster, but it will freeze the enemy. Disable it entirely. I don't know will it do any damage though. Here she's actually forced to surface, and now she's taking heavy fire. I'm showing you the footage first, well, the actual gameplay from this, and then I will pay attention. I'll show you a lot of details, which I'm guaranteeing you're missing. She lost her AA, which is also funny. Like deck guns, I did see that some of these submarines are gonna have deck guns. Are those deck guns gonna be useful or not? Are they just there for aesthetics? There in the background you could have seen another submarine. Here you can see that she's actually on fire. Well, there's a fire definitely on board the submarine. We're gonna talk about that even further. I like the music of this. And these are just the giant comets being fired from the catapults. One thing though, seems like the second you surface it can't hit you anymore. Which, I don't know, is that a bit ridiculous or not? There should have been at least a rock falling, but... Here we can see some mines, or actual depth charges. So they have really put a lot of work into this. And I would be very much surprised that it's just gonna stay for a couple of days in the Halloween event. So let's go and analyze what we just saw. And I'll play this video again. I'll just lower... No. You play again. Oh my god, come on, don't do it. Oh, here it is. I'm an idiot. And let me just really lower the volume down. So here, 1 second, we see a deck gun. This is the biggest type of submarine, I think, in the game. It's absolutely huge. And it actually has a gun. Will this gun be able to be used or not? I don't know. World War II submarines, well, German World War II submarines, most of them had, as far as I know, a different version of an 88mm. Which in reality was a pretty nasty gun. Excuse me. But in World of Warships, if you take a look, if you think about it, an 88mm gun, one 88mm gun is going to be really nothing, no big deal. Some of the submarines had 105s. I'm not sure did any have 128s. But even the 128 is literally just one regular destroyer caliber gun. So I don't know. Is that really going to be something worth? I don't think this one has a gun. Not sure. And this one for sure doesn't have a gun. But this one appears to have an AA in the front and in the back. And we did see that after a couple of hits, she lost the AA. So maybe this one is actually going to be having AA. We'll see, but no deck guns. You can see them on the surface and the game starts. And you can see that the ships appear immediately. Like if we skip just a couple of seconds in the back. Oh, you can actually still see them. Oh no, this is where the game already started. Let's just rewind real quick before the game actually starts. Oh yeah, you can see the ships. But you can see that these ships are actually ridiculously close. You can't see the mini-map yet. You will be able to see it later on in the game. But the ships are already there. The game starts. They start moving. You dive immediately. And you can start moving. What I did hear from the developers and talking about this whole thing is that you will be a lot faster on the surface than you will be under the surface. Which makes sense. However, one thing we must not forget, World War II submarines, like German submarines, could go like 7-8 knots underwater unless they had a snorkel, which was a specially designed exhaust, which meant that they were literally having a periscope for their diesel engines that was just getting out all the exhaust. And with that, they could be a lot faster, but they could have been spotted because there was exhaust above the surface in the middle of the ocean, which you can see. So, which I don't think they have here. And basically, those submarines were able to go a lot faster on the surface, like up to 20 knots, I think. But submerged, they were really slow, which would be a huge problem for World of Warships. But more on that later. Here we have a perfect footage to show you a couple of things. You can see that this submarine is right now on minus 48 meters, which is basically just 48 meters of depth. You can see this sort of a scale here, which I'm guessing is showing you how much you can. This should be the surface, and this should be how deep you can go. And I'm guessing you'll be going up and down with E and Q, which might be a bit of a pickle if that's really how it's gonna work, to get used to it, instead of W and S. But I guess W and S are just gonna be forward and backward. Now you're getting a third dimension. Well, that's right. One more thing that you have to pay attention to is this here. When she dives, you can see it later in the video, she has 1 minute and 19, 1 minute and 20. I think that is the oxygen. So she will be able to stay underwater for about minute 20 before being forced to go out. Now, as far as I've seen in the video, you don't get to choose do you want to surface or not when your oxygen runs out, which I personally think should be changed. If you stay underwater, but this is still work in progress, of course, this is just my ideas. If you stay underwater, and your oxygen is depleted, you should start losing HP, like a sort of a way to show you that your crew is suffocating, and if you don't do anything, you'll just die. But here, I think when the timer hits 0, you are literally forced to go to the surface, and then you will see this bar here, which is representing visually how much oxygen you have left, being replenished. See, 27, it's going down. 100 meters, I'm guessing this will represent how much you can go deeper. And see, now the oxygen has disappeared and it's rapidly going up. Now this may be rapidly for us, but in the midst of a battle where you have a couple of ships surrounding you, having that oxygen not instantly being replenished like it was in reality, you needed some time to actually replenish it. It was pretty fast, but it needed some time. Might actually be pretty dangerous, because if you take a look, this submarine has 6,400 HP, a tier 7, apparently a tier 7 submarine. 6,000. I did see one that has above 10,000, but even that is no big deal. I mean, can you just imagine any tier 7, 8, 9, not even to mention tier 10 ships with 10, 12 large caliber guns, taking away 6.4 or 10,000 HP from a thing that's not supposed to have any armor to begin with? That is gonna be deadly. Now, I do know that they will be spotting a lot better on the surface than when they're submerged. I don't know how big of a difference is gonna be when you're in the periscope depth and when you're fully submerged. My guess is when you're fully submerged, you're not gonna see shit. When you're on the periscope depth, you will have detectability up to, I don't know how many kilometers, and if you surface, you'll see, I guess, just as normal as everybody else will. Although this ship, if you want to call it ship, basically a submarine, is actually extremely low. So her detection should be extremely low. You can see here on 5.2 not being detected. I'm guessing that their detections are going to be only a couple of kilometers, even on the surface. And on periscope depth, questionable if you're going to be able to see them at all. 1.8 kilometers, and she is detected on the periscope depth. You can see massive damage. 1 torp. Actually, I'm not sure was it shown there. See, 000, she's surfacing up, and now she's being replenished. 11.7 thousand HP. and she's taking fire. Now pay attention to the HP, if this is the part where she actually gets hit. These comets are falling really close. Here we go, a fire, boom. Double fire, one from this direction, one from this direction, and one hit took about 4,000 HP. Double fire. If you take a look at the submarine, she is actually not on fire. Okay, now she actually extinguished, but there's a couple of other parts in the video where you can see the submarine is on fire, but you don't see the fire visually. So the fire is not the external, it's the internal one. Means your deck has been breached and, you know, the fire has been caused. So what this means is even if you dive, your fire is probably not going to get extinguished. You will need to use your repair kit, which we can see quite clearly here is being used. And also the submarine has a sonar. 1.5 minutes on the cooldown of that fire, which is repair kit, which is quite a lot. We can see that AA has been destroyed. And you can see here about minute 5 and add another 10-15 seconds. So you really can't stay on the surface for a long time. And you can see something that I wanted to mention, well, what I did mention at the beginning and that I said we'll talk about even further. Full speed underwater, 15.3 knots. One thing we have to remember, the World War II, most of the World War II submarines were extremely slow underwater, but the late, like Type 21 and Type 23, those things could go around 20 knots underneath the surface. They were faster below the surface than they were on the surface. Those were the first modern submarines that the Germans have built very, very late in the war. Some of them saw action, but not a lot, and only a few. And basically the war ended, and then based on them, you know, the modern submarines were then being created. What we have to, you know, bear in mind here, we have ships way, way after World War II in the game, like Moskwas and stuff. Those ships were built a lot later, after the war. So if you think in that perspective that the higher tier submarines are going to be probably built very late or after World War II, it's not going to be very unrealistic for these things to be moving at significant speeds, even underwater. Questionable which tier is there. Are they actually going to start appearing? What are you going to need to research or even start researching to get them? Are they going to be a transition from a certain lane? We still do not know that. And, you know, are these older, lower tier submarines going to be extremely slow? And how are they going to fit into the whole gameplay where ships are going above 30 knots? Although in the lower tiers, things are really moving between like 15 and 20, 25 knots. So even putting these World War II submarines that's going to be forced to move on the surface and then dive and move very slowly, that's actually, I think that's actually pretty doable. The major concern is going to be, how are they going to impact the game balance? Are they going to be OP, underpowered? The reloads, 16,000, almost 16,000 damage with one torpedo there. That is significant damage for one torp. That's like higher tier. I mean, okay, that was a tier 2 Zikasa, but still. These things are not going to have a lot of torps, but those torps that they will have, I think, are going to be pretty devastating. And of course, it's just going to be a single, maybe 2 torpedoes, maybe 3, depending on how many tubes they put. Now here, pay attention. He has right now 3,300 damage. There are some depth charges. This is not even that close. It explodes. It takes... Look where it exploded. Different depth and about, I don't know how many hundred of meters behind it. It exploded. It took 498 HP and it set it on fire. And he cannot repair because he literally just dived. This submarine was on the surface, which you can see based on this, and the repair. She was on surface, she took fire, she was on fire, she had to repair, she dives, depth charges fall in, set her on fire from the blast area, which they did say is going to be pretty large, and now she's going to burn. She's going to burn for quite a bit. And now if we go back just a second here, 50-31, it's only 19 damage per tick. It's really, really not a lot. But then again, these things don't really have exactly a lot of HP. So, how is this going to how is this going to affect the whole World of Warships? It is really, really hard to say. I don't know. How are they gonna balance it? I don't know. Very much looking forward to exploiting this and exploring it and hopefully helping them balance it. I mean, I've been playing this game for many, many years now, since closed beta, and anything that's gonna break the stalemate, the stale meta, billion radars, which is also something that I'm very curious to see when you're surfaced. Is the radar gonna catch you or not? Because you're too small of a profile. Is it gonna catch your periscopes like they did in reality sometimes? Very curious to see how this whole thing is gonna work. And I hope that you guys are just as excited. Now, don't get me wrong. I said it a billion times on the stream. Submarines just do not belong in World of Warships. They would break the game, and so much work would have to go in it. But apparently Wargaming has been working behind our backs, and even though they said that it's never going to get implemented, things have obviously changed, and now they decided to implement it in the next Halloween event, and maybe even further in the game. But based on what I've seen, they have went through a significant depth, pun intended, to actually make this happen. So it would be kind of a really bizarre thing for them to not implement it in the game entirely and just leave it to basically create the entire map from surface down and all these mechanics and all these weapons and stuff, and then just leave it for a couple of days at a Halloween event every once in a year. So I'm very, very confident that these things are actually coming into the game, and after playing for so long and so often, I'm actually looking forward to seeing how are they going to implement. Of course, I really hope that they don't break the game with it, but these things, I don't think they're going to be an extremely overpowered. I think they're going to be dangerous, but not overpowered, because they will be an extremely easy thing to kill on the surface, and they will have to go on surface every minute or two, at least how they're presented to us right now. Even though in reality, they can stay for, I don't know, about 24 hours in World War II. Modern submarines can stay a lot longer, I think for weeks. And here you can only stay for a minute or two, but that's the balancing part about it. And also very much looking forward to destroyers getting, and cruisers getting, a whole new role of depth charges. And how are they going to work? How are you going to be able to make sure which depth the submarine is on? How and where and when do you drop and activate or detonate the depth charges? How will you be detected? Is it going to be a plus or a minus for destroyers, which were hunter killers and literally, you know, the arch enemy of submarines? With the upcoming British destroyers, which is literally, I think, tomorrow, which were the, you know, one of the most badass destroyers when it comes to hunting the submarines, they will have to rework all the maps and all the ships in the game for this to happen. This is something huge, absolutely huge, which is why I'm excited about it. And with the upcoming carrier rework, will these things be able to be spotted from planes? Because in reality, you could see the shadows of the submarines if they weren't too deep and if it was sunny and a good day. And planes were the ultimate, just like destroyers, ultimate hunter killers of these submarines. So I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it. To see, if nothing else, to see and have fun in the next Halloween event and see if this is actually going to be entertaining and interesting, or it's just going to be an absolute failure that needs to be stopped before it spreads like a plague. I don't know, but I am excited. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave a couple of links down below where you can check out some of these talkings and interviews and footage and videos from this stuff. And I'll see you later. Have a good day and good luck.